Welcome back, everyone, to Resurrecting Faith. Did you really need to make that face? Um, so once again, whatever that sickness is that got us, it still got us because we are still feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try real hard not to cough this whole time.
Yeah, me too.
But it has been an interesting, whatever this is, because it sucks. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably like 95%. I feel a lot better, but it's still, lingering. So,
Yeah. And our poor son missed like 3 days of school last week.
yeah,
It's
pretty rough.
He's not feeling great. So, anyways, how was your week otherwise, Andrew? Did you do anything exciting?
I did not. It was pretty much laid in bed as often as possible. Made for a lazy week.
Yeah.
Did some odds and ends, but I managed to go to work and for a few days anyway. But
Okay, cool.
how was your week?
I had a good week. My boss came into town. Your boss. Our boss.
Our boss.
Our boss. She's in town next week too, but it's always different, entertaining. You got someone else in town.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of throws things off too. Like, I'm very ritualistic, and I kind of have, I don't know, I function well on like routine.
Yeah, well,
So.
I think we all do. And when something is different, it kind of like throws everything not out of whack, but just kind of different, I guess.
Yeah.
But I guess it's good. Shouldn't get stuck in a rut, I guess. I don't know.
Sure. Anyway, so we don't really have a lot of stuff to talk about for a week, but so we'll just probably kind of jump right into this. We've discussed a lot this week on like how we want this to go or where we want to go with it. And I've done a lot of, I guess, soul searching and Google searching, internet helping, to try and find an answer, which is really the whole reason we started this in the first place, was because we wanted to find an answer, or I wanted to find an answer in how to resurrect faith, or how to have faith, or how to find faith. And so after a couple of weeks, well, it's been a couple months now, really, but after a couple of weeks of the podcast and really just like having these discussions, it's not only been good for, I think us, our household, our marriage, but like also for me personally, because it's kind of helped me figure out like, okay, I'm continuing to have not necessarily the same conversation, but it all kind of ends the same way. Like, what's next? Where do I go from here? What do I do now? Like, okay, I want to be invested. I want to try to have faith. So what do I do? How do I do that? How do I get there? And I think it comes down to a couple of different things. Like, one, I just need to dedicate myself and decide that's the direction that I'm going to go and give it my all, because like I said last week, I'm an all or nothing kind of gal. And so it didn't work.
Fresh loogies.
I'm sorry. So I either need to dedicate myself and just make the decision. And I think it's really just a decision. Like, instead of getting so in my head about it and making it seem like, I need to do this, and this to get there. Like, I just have to make a decision that that's the direction I want to go and start working towards that direction. And one of the things that I read this week that I kind of wanted to share, I found really interesting. And if it helps you, great. But Hebrews chapter 11 is actually called the faith chapter in the Bible. The word faith is mentioned like 24 times throughout just one chapter in the Bible. So one of the recommendations was, if you're ever struggling with your faith, or you don't know where you're at, or you don't know how you're feeling, go back and read the book of Hebrews. And kind of get like a gauge from there. And then I think too, like this week, pastor listening to him, like, I think he went off on a tangent that he didn't really intentionally mean to go off on, but he was like, all the other things that people are doing to try to find answers or find, how did he put it?
Are you talking about from this?
Yeah, this week. Yeah.
Like today? Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about like the culture?
Yeah, like the culture, like
oh, everyone's trying to find something divine.
That's what it was. Yeah. So he's mentioning that everyone's trying to find something divine. And I don't really think that was entirely his message, but he was like, and I think he even said, like, the Holy Spirit's coming through me. I'm going to go ahead and say this now. But, like, tarot cards aren't it. Psychics aren't it. Doing all of those things are not going to give you the answer that you want. The thing that's going to give you the answer you want is the Bible. So everything that I've kind of been looking at this week has brought me back to the same answer. Like, stop looking at all these other places and just read your Bible.
Well, yeah, I think too, like, I do think in some aspect people will find answers in those things because they are demonic. And, if you read through the Bible and even Pastor this morning said, those, they're real. Right. And they may not be demon like as we picture them today, right? With snarl, long
horns
teeth
on their head.
Yeah. I don't think that's necessarily what that's very cartoony, I think, for us to think that way. But they are real, right? I heard another pastor was like, these demonic spirits if you go to a tarot card or you go to a palm reader or a psychic, these demons have been with you your whole life, so to speak. So of course they know your past, and they, so when they get into the reader's ear or the tarot card or the psychic, whoever it may be, they're going to know those things. So when you hear that, you're going to be like, oh, wow, they must really know. And the truth behind it is it's probably demonic that they do know. They do know because they've been with you your life. So when the reader goes through and starts to evaluate or tell you about your past or tell you about your future, they're going to know some things because those demonic spirits have been around you. So to close that door is to repent, ask God for forgiveness to help you close that door and continue walking in the path of righteousness as opposed to opening those other doors.
But I mean, I have to be completely honest, like, and maybe Andrew will want me to cut this out. I don't know, but we're being honest and transparent. Like, there have been many times in my life that I've used, like, crystals, and I feel like there's still a part of me that struggles with that. Like, I can't use crystals. Like, why not? What's wrong with them? I mean, I don't have the answer. I don't know. But I know that, like, that's not necessarily seen as a good thing. And maybe it's because you're, like, searching for power in something that isn't God. But, I mean, I always used them as, like, a gentle reminder of the thing that was, like, bothering me at the time. It wasn't necessarily like I'm doing witchcraft. It's like I'm wearing it as a reminder, just like you wear a cross as a reminder to remember Jesus. Like, It was like, hey, I'm working on self-love right now. I've had some issues, and I'm going to remind myself by wearing this crystal that I need to love myself because, yeah. So, but in addition to that, Andrew and I did see a psychic. How many years ago was that now?
No, just before we came here.
So about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Almost 6 years ago. It was right after we got married. So it'll be almost 6 years here soon. And at the time, neither of us were really like, oh, we believe in psychics, but, well, at least I wasn't. But we had a really heavy decision to make, and it was in regards to moving out here. And we didn't know what the right answer was, but we figured that the psychic would be able to tell us what we wanted to hear. Because it was a hard choice to move out here, personal reasons and everything else. Even though we knew in the end it was probably the best thing for us, like, there were some other reasons that it would be hard. And, yeah, so we went and saw a psychic, and he did tell us to move out here, and he did tell us some things that actually did come to fruition, which is super weird.
Well, yeah, and Oh, sorry.
Well, no, but I was just going to say, but again, you're right. Like, that it is real, and nothing bad came of that experience that I know of. Um, but still, that's not to say that that's the right thing, and you're opening yourself up to that world that they could access
Right.
in order to use it in a negative way.
Well, yeah, because at the time we weren't in religion, right? We weren't looking to God. Like neither one of us were like, oh, well, let's pray about it, or whereas now we would probably do that.
Yeah.
We would seek out, God's will, whereas back then neither one of us were really involved in the church. We weren't involved in reading the Bible. Like that was honestly probably the last thing that we would have ran to. And we went to the psychic, like you said, and yeah, I mean, who knows, if we would have prayed about it, maybe the outcomes would have been different, or, maybe we would have felt, I mean, I don't know.
See, that's one of those things though that I have a hard time with, and I will bring that up because, yeah, you want to say like, okay, let's redo that. Let's go back 6 years, and let's say that we were, praying to God, and let's say we prayed to God, and we're like, let your will be done. Well, I almost feel like it's that analogy of like the guy that's, the floodwaters are rising around him, and he sends him a boat, and he's like, here you go, and he's like, no, God will save me. And it's like, then he sends him, someone else on a jet ski. And he's like, no, God will save me. And at the end, the guy drowns. And he's like, God, why'd you let me drown? And he's like, well, I sent you a boat. I sent you a jet ski. I sent you this, that, whatever. You didn't take the opportunity that I gave you. And so sometimes I struggle with that letting go and letting God's will be done, because you as a human still have to make decisions, right? Like you're still going to have this decision in front of you, and the decision was given to you. So what do you do with it?
Mm-hmm.
Which one is God's will? How do you know that? Like you don't really know, right? But at the time we were asking for certain things, maybe personally, and like there was that opportunity. Here you go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving it to you. And we're like, so I don't know. That's a hard one for me. Like understanding, how do you let God's will be done, but still work towards the goal that you have in your heart for yourself too. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I mean, yes, but I mean, I don't know, like that coming, did that, because we didn't seek God's will, did that delay maybe some things? Or, what I mean? Because we still came around to God eventually. I mean, some people are not going to have that opportunity, but thankfully, we did. So again, what would the outcome have been if we didn't, or if we asked God, and would the outcome have been the same, or would it have been delayed, or what, things like that. So, coming here and then, our son going to the school that he's going to, like, would that have happened sooner? Like, cause then COVID happened and all that stuff. Like, I mean, I don't know what, somehow it still brought us to here.
Sorry. I was trying. It was coming out in little hacks, and I just, yeah. Sorry.
That's all right.
All right, go ahead. Sorry, we came here and.
Yeah, no, I mean, how different would that outcome had been? Would we have ended up staying? Like, I don't know. I don't think so. But, I don't know. I mean, we're in this position now. So this is where we continue to go forward, right? We can't look at the past. We have to continue moving forward in the faith and trying to understand God's will. And you have to lean into that, because, Pastor said it a bunch of times, is God going to convict you for paying for the guy in front of you at the lunch line? Like, does God want, you know what I mean? Like, how do you discern what God is saying as opposed to what you're saying, as opposed to what, the enemy might be saying? Like,
Well, and I don't think anyone has the answer. And I wasn't necessarily saying like I needed you to provide it. I'm just saying that to me, like, that is definitely one of those things I struggle with. And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with. But, you know, that's one of those hard ones for me. That's just one of those things where I'm like, yeah, but like, where does the line get drawn in the like you have the ability to make these decisions and I've given you the gifts through your life of all of these different things and you have the decisions to make personally. They are ultimately your decisions. So it's almost to me seems like I guess a little lazy sometimes to be like, let God's will be done. And it's like, well, yeah, but if you don't take the steps to get it done, his will's not gonna, I mean, I guess ultimately it's done either way, right? But like that's kind of the point. Like you still have to do things and
Right.
make decisions in your own life to like move that forward.
Well, yeah, and I guess that's your conversation too with God is, if you accept a new job or you accept, I don't know, to move or whatever, like you have those conversations with God and be like, is this the right, are things being thrown at you that you don't know how to maneuver through, then you would ask God, like, is this the right decision? And then you kind of go from there, was it the right time? Maybe it wasn't, I mean, I think that's the conversation that you'd have to have with God is when you start something new, what's being thrown at you? Are you constantly being convicted? Is it, are you second guessing your decision? Are you, what types of issues are you having because of this decision? And then you just have to weave through it, I guess. I mean, I don't know if we'll ever know moving here was the right decision in the grand scheme of things. Maybe I don't know. I mean, I'm thankful that we came around and started back in religion and seeking God. I'm grateful for that. But at the end of it all, like, was it the right decision in a sense? I don't know if that makes sense, but
I mean, I think it was. I think it's opened a lot of opportunities, not only for us, but for our children. Whether they take them or not, we can't control that.
yeah.
But, that's a part of letting, I guess, God's will be done is it's what will happen or what is supposed to happen will happen. And, we're here now. And like you said, we can't go back and we can't change the decision, but we, from here forward and this place forward, can try to pray on that and make it happen the way that it's supposed to. Mm-hmm. I do think in a lot of ways it was good that we moved here, and I don't know that it would have worked out the same. We have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I do know that, coming here allowed us to buy a house and put our kid in a nice school, which wasn't available over there that we could afford. So, things happen. But we got very pork and beans off topic.
Did we?
Oh, yeah. But it's fine.
What about...
It doesn't matter. It's okay. I mean, it's just really an open space to talk about anything. But I am going to bring it back. So we were talking, or I was talking, I guess, mostly about the faith chapter of Hebrews. And one of the things I wanted to point out was that in verse 1, so Hebrews, go ahead. You need to adjust.
Yeah, I'm not even.
I'm going to adjust and I'm going to edit this up. Okay. I'm editing it out. I don't care. I'm going to make faces. Maybe I won't. I don't know. So I say I'm going to do it and then I don't. I'm like, it's too much work. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like, take me as I am.
That's all right.
And here's all. So, I'll just recap. So, we are starting back on Hebrews 11, which is the faith chapter. And then in verse 1, it states, or the verse is, now faith is the reality of what is hoped for, the proof of what is not seen. And I really had to study on that for a while. I also read some information online. This thing's like moving. There we go. I read some information online about it that helped me kind of understand that verse a bit better, kind of like expand that verse. And the word reality in there. So now faith is the reality or assurance. So the reality or the assurance. So therefore, where faith is involved, there's an assurance that it'll be received. So basically just saying like faith is there, faith is involved in your relationship. Like now faith is your reality, but you don't necessarily see it and you're not going to necessarily get the proof for it. But there is assurance there in the Bible that you will receive faith. And maybe you don't have it now, but maybe you just ask God for it. Like in my way of praying, and say, hey, God, what's up? Can you help me out with some faith? When in other people's, they would do it a little bit more pretty. But, like ask God that, like, hey, I need help with my faith. I need help finding faith. And I'm going to go on because it elaborates a bit more. So one of the other things that I thought was really interesting is there's in the New Testament, there's 9 fruits of Spirit mentioned, and then there's 9 gifts of the Spirit mentioned. The 9 fruits of the Spirit are in Galatians chapter 5, 22 through 23. And the 9 gifts of Spirit are in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, 7 through 10. And it lists, the different things there. But the thing that I really want to focus on is the only word that's mentioned in both of those things is faith. So faith is not only a fruit of the Spirit, but faith is also a gift of the Spirit. So in my mind, that says like faith is a fruit that you get, right? Like you nurture a tree, you water a tree, it grows leaves. And in my case, sometimes it dies, but we're not going with that analogy. We're going to go with the other one. And then eventually it flowers and it puts off a fruit. But you have to put all of that work and that energy into getting that tree to eventually put off that fruit. And you trust and you have faith that one day, if you do all of the right things, that fruit is going to be on that tree and you're going to enjoy it. But you don't necessarily know for sure when you start watering that tree that that's what you're going to get. Mm-hmm. So for me, I think it's interesting that in both the fruit of the Spirit and a gift of the Spirit, you are given this as a gift. Excuse me again. You are given this as a gift from the Spirit, but you may not understand how to receive it right away, and that's okay too. So I actually just came up with that little tree thing because when I was talking about it, I thought about it that way. But the way I had it written down was, and I did that because I like to garden and grow trees, and yeah, sometimes they do die. But so the way they elaborated it was like some people think of faith as something they work towards, so God will do something for you. But instead, faith should be thought as something to ask God for and be gifted for in order to fulfill his purpose. So, I guess I'm just saying that it's okay to not have faith. Like we started this as trying to find a way for me to find faith. To understand how to get that back. And maybe that's the wrong thing to focus on. Maybe focusing so hard on having faith in something that the big man in the sky is not something I can grasp right now. And maybe that's okay, but maybe I can just have faith in the process more so. Just have faith in that his gift or the work will be done. And I need to learn more and I need to read more and I need to figure that out. So, in saying all of that, we're going to start a new series. We're going to start a new direction or a new path along resurrecting faith and have it be more of a learning experience. Yes, we all go to church and yes, we go to Bible study and some of us don't, maybe. Some of us don't have time. I know sometimes it's hard for us too. And, I know there's so many different resources out there and there's podcasts out there and there's videos, there's YouTubes, there's all of the things out there. So, you can go out and look for different resources if you want, but if you want to kind of come along with us on our journey, you're more than welcome to. We have never read the Bible cover to cover. And I'm not going to this time, but we're going to start in the New Testament. And the reason I say that is because And even coming into the religion side, I was like, what's the difference? Like, I know the Old Testament's before, Christ died, and then the New Testament's after Christ died. Like, so I always wondered why so many churches taught like the New Testament. And I was like, why don't they ever talk about all the cool stuff that happened in the Old Testament? Because there really is a bunch of cool stuff in the Old Testament. Well, they don't teach it because it doesn't really apply to us anymore. It's more of a history book.
Right.
And I get that now. Like, it's more of it's interesting. And if you ever want to go back and read it, like, it is very interesting. But what's more applicable to our life now and what's more that we need to understand now is the New Testament. So we are going to chronologically go through the New Testament and kind of discuss from our perspective, what did the book mean to us? What did we gain from it? What was the information that we found valuable? Can it be applied to our lives? Is it totally wild? Like, what is being discussed? So we'll be starting with the book of Mark next week. We're going to read chapters 1 through 7. And I encourage you to do the same and come to us with your own thoughts in the next video. Maybe we can get to a place where we kind of do a live every once in a while. Maybe we only have like 14 followers now. So maybe when we have like a little more, but
double digits.
I know, right? So maybe when we have a little more, we'll do a little more. But for now, you're welcome to always send in your thoughts. I would love to have an email or a message, a DM on one of our socials. And you can let us know like what your thoughts are on the book before we film this. And we film usually on Saturdays or Sundays. So if you get a chance to read through it this week and you want to send us your thoughts on it, I encourage you to do so. And I'd appreciate it. We'll read through. We don't have that many friends and followers, so it shouldn't be that much to read. But yeah, send them our way. So anyway, I talked a lot. Sorry.
Yeah, that was a lot of pork and beans.
I'm sorry. Was it?
No. I was just listening.
Oh.
So.
Well, did you have any thoughts? Because I know I didn't really tell you all of that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I knew we were going to do something, for the week, I didn't really have a whole lot to go off of, honestly. Like, again, I know I mentioned it last week, but like community is so huge. Like, I just feel my mind's in a blur, like I don't really, I've missed.
Because we've been sick and we didn't want to infect other people.
Yeah. So we missed Bible study. We haven't been in the church. I mean, we streamed it. We've been streaming it, which is fine, but you just need that community. Like, you just do. It's just important for your walk, right, with God and trying to understand, and just because you get other perspectives too that you can apply to your life, and maybe that different perspectives that you wouldn't have had unless you went to Bible study or you went to the church. So again, I think that's super important, wherever you're at in your faith. And yeah, community is good, because I'm just kind of like winging it today. When I think,
to be fair though, that's what most of our conversations are, and that's what I wanted this to be, is us winging it. Like us talking, us being normal people, and not necessarily being scripted and all of that. Like,
oh yeah, but
it's okay. Sometimes you don't feel it, and you could say it. I don't feel it.
Well, not only that, it's just I'm already a quiet person. So if I don't have anything to give to it, I just kind of sit here with the crickets chirping.
What's going on in your brain when you sit there? Nothing.
But when I do think of faith, see, it's like contagious.
I'm sorry. I didn't put my foot up here.
When I do start to think of faith, though, I always go back to Job and his faith, and like, it's an interesting book to read too, because as he goes on in his faith, God's taking all these things away from him, and even his wife is like, curse God and die. And then eventually, he ends up like sort of prideful of his faith. So prideful that God has to kind of humble him and be like, it's like 4 chapters of God just kind of humbling Job and like basically, he starts off like, where were you? Were you there when I created the heavens and the earth? Do you know the measurements? Like, do you know basically everything, the birds, the instincts, like, did you give them it's pretty cool to read, because then he even talks about like, are you able to bind Orion or loosen Orion's belt, basically? Are you able to control, like, I forget what the cluster, I think it's called the seven sisters, but it's a cluster of stars, and it has to do with like changing of the seasons, and it's just like real poetic the way that it's brought to Job's attention. Like, can you summon the thunder? Like, can you summon the lightning? Basically, just look around you, and the immense power that God has, and but basically, don't be so prideful in your faith, but be humble in it. Have faith, but stay humble in that. And I don't know. I like the Book of Job.
Well, maybe we'll do a special on Job, because that's Old Testament, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
I was testing you there.
I mean,
I was testing myself.
I just agreed because it seemed like you knew. So you led the.
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm assuming, but I really don't know. I thought Hebrews was Old Testament until I looked at it today. I really got to get better about learning my books of the Bible.
Yeah, I think Job is old. Well, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. But I'll have to check it out. But anyways, Book of Job and his faith is
it's a great read.
No, it is. It is.
Maybe I'll have to add that in, since we don't even know where it's at in the Bible.
It's in the Bible.
It is in the Bible.
Between Genesis and Revelation. So that much I do know.
Don't make me laugh. It's going to make me cough. Okay. Well, on that note, if you would like to read and join us next week, we would appreciate it. I am not sponsored, but I bought several Bibles since we've started this journey to find one that's been very comfortable for me and easy to use. And I'm sorry, but reading the Bible is tough. Like, especially the ones we grew up with, if you know what I mean. Like, even the NIV version is a little bit tough to read. So if you would like to have a suggestion for a Bible, I found a Bible that I absolutely love to read. It reads just like a book, and it makes it so much easier to understand. Is it perfect? Probably not. Am I going to get in trouble? But anyway, it's called She Reads, and they also have a He Reads version. I prefer the She Reads version because there's this really cool thing in the back of the book where it goes through and says like different things that you're working on or striving for or struggling with, like, for example, faith, or there's like adultery or alcoholism or guilt or shame or any of that. So if there's anything that you're like struggling with really hard, you can go to the back of the Bible and look through their index, and it'll tell you the different chapters and books of the Bible to go to kind of help you through whatever it is that you're struggling with. It also has, it's really pretty for the ladies. Like, it's got like pretty pictures in it and stuff. But then like each book also will tell you in each chapter, like how you can kind of build on your knowledge of each chapter and where you can reference different books. And there's pages in there that kind of break down what's happening. And it's not Bible text, but it's somebody saying, this is what this was intended for. This is an explanation to further help you understand it. And I adore that. I need that because it's also new to me. And he ended up really liking it. So he got the He Reads version. It does not have that index in the back.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, it was the only kind of disappointing thing. So if you're not too masculine and you want a more girly Bible, it does have some great stuff in the back of the She Reads version. And maybe there's a version of the He Reads that has it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Because I did get the He Reads, and I also got another study Bible, the ESV. That one's kind of hard because it's just, there's so much reading before it even gets to the text. And when you're done, you're just like, all right, that was a lot of reading. Yeah. But anyways, I got 2 study Bibles, and then I have like 2 other regular Bibles.
Yeah. If I can figure out how to set up one of those fancy Amazon affiliate stores, I will do my best to link it in the video down below. If not, I might just stick that link in there anyway, whether I get an affiliate for it or not. I don't really care because I do really like the Bible. I think that it's super helpful if you're like in your journey like I am. If you're trying to understand and you're trying to like really grasp what the meaning of the Bible is, I think it's very helpful. So
I think so too. I mean, that's just how, and that's kind of how our pastor goes into the message, right? He breaks it all down. And I think that's super important because sometimes you just read through the text and you don't get anything out of it because it is difficult to understand. Yeah. And I think that helps a lot of people. Some people are like, well, maybe it's not meant for you to understand. It's like, well, then why is it there?
Okay.
Like, well, I gotta, how do you understand it? At some point, you had to break it down too. Like,
well, and the Bible was originally written in a completely different language than what we're reading it in. So, I guess part of my issue has always been too, like, well, how is it translated? Do we know it was translated correctly? And how do we know what we're reading is the right one? Those are all questions that I need to like, just let it go, man. Just let it go. Like, just read the Bible and take it for what it is. Read the version that makes the most sense to you so that you can understand the totality of the message. Mm-hmm. And later on, if you would like to read the King James Version, God help you, because that Bible, I do not understand 4 words into it.
So yeah, I like the King James. I think,
my brain, it's like, thou shalt not, and I'm like, who shall what? What? I don't even know what those words meant. Like, I am so lost the second I read it.
I just like it because of some of the impact of the words. They just jump off the page for me. But I still have to go and like Google search it. Like, what did this actually? Because some words, when you break it down in the Hebrew or the Greek, like those words have so much more meaning behind them.
And I do think that's interesting. I think that's an interesting part of it too. But I think for right now, what's important, at least for me, is the She Reads. I do that every time. She Reads. And it's because I was trying to say it's a CSV version. But the She Reads Bible, it gives you that chance to really understand it. Now, later on down the road, what might be cool is to go back through some of those verses that were impactful or had meaning to me and go back to the King James Version and see just how different they are, and re-reference some of those words, because I did do that actually when I was looking at that verse I mentioned earlier, where I originally found it was like not the same as my Bible. So like kind of the multiple different words that are replaced or used in place of different words like evidence and proof and reality and assurance. And like those are all kind of different interchangeable words, but how and understanding that is kind of interesting. So, if you get that far into it and you're in, I think that's a cool idea down the road. But right now, I say no. I say King James is too much for me. I would not be able to focus on that. So. But if you can, more power to you.
Yeah.
So. That's all we got.
Yeah. Short. It's a short one.
Short, today. Sweet, to the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it should have just been you with special appearance cameo by me.
Maybe we'll do that.
Yeah.
I can do that. You were never here.
Yeah.
All right. Pork and Beans out.